You know that feeling when you're standing in a room full of people and someone looks at you and they ask you something in English? Something simple. Maybe, "So, where are you from?" And your brain just stops. Not because you don't know the answer. You do know the answer. You've studied English for years. You know the grammar. You know the words. But at that moment, nothing comes out. You smile. You laugh a little. You say sorry or nothing at all. And then you walk away feeling like you failed.
That feeling is so real. I remember it like it was yesterday.
And here's the thing nobody talks about. It's not because your English is bad. It's because of something much deeper. Something that happened to you long before you ever opened an English textbook. Today, I want to share a real story. Not a success story with a perfect ending. A real, uncomfortable, honest story. About the day I was so embarrassed to speak English that I pretended I couldn't hear. Stay with me, because if this has ever happened to you, this episode will change something in you. Okay, so let me take you back. I was about 22 years old. I had been studying English for almost 6 years at that point.
6 years! That's a long time.
6 years. Classes, textbooks, movies with subtitles, everything. And honestly, my reading was quite good. My writing, not bad. But speaking was a completely different world.
Why do you think that was?
Because I had never really needed to use it. I studied English, but I never lived in English. There's a big difference. Anyway, one evening I was at a small gathering, a friend's apartment, and there was a man there, a foreign colleague of my friend. His name was David. He was from Canada.
Oh no, I already feel what's coming.
He was very friendly, very relaxed, and he came over to me, smiled, and said, "Hey, are you a friend of Ria's? She talks about you a lot. What do you do for work?"
That's such a normal question.
The most normal question in the world. But my brain did not receive it as a normal question. My brain received it as a test. A sudden, terrifying test that I had not prepared for.
What did you do?
I panicked. And when I panic, I don't freeze. I disappear. I suddenly became very interested in the food on the table behind me. I turned around, picked up a plate, and started looking at the snacks like they were the most fascinating things I had ever seen in my life.
No, you didn't.
I absolutely did. And David, he just kind of stood there for a moment. Then he laughed gently and walked away. He wasn't rude. He wasn't frustrated. He just moved on. But I stood there holding that plate of snacks, feeling like the ground should open up and take me.
I've been in situations like this. Not exactly the same, but that feeling, that shame, it's so heavy.
It is heavy. And what made it worse was that for the rest of the evening, I watched David talk to other people, laughing, joking, having long conversations. And I kept thinking, I know English. I studied it for 6 years. Why couldn't I just say 5 words?
And what did you do after that night?
I went home and I sat with that feeling for a long time. Not to punish myself, but to understand it. Because that night made me realize there is something between knowing a language and using a language. And that gap had a name. It was called fear.
So tell me, is this just you? Or do you think a lot of English learners feel this way?
Oh, it is everywhere. I've spoken to so many people about this, and the stories are almost identical. There's the student who scored high in their English exam, but when their foreign professor asked them a question in class, they went silent.
Yes, The exam English versus the real-life English. That gap is massive.
Exactly. Then there's the professional, maybe an engineer or a doctor, who has excellent technical knowledge. But in an international meeting, when someone asks for their opinion, they say, "I agree," and nothing else. Not because they have no opinion, but because forming that opinion in English, out loud, in front of people, that's terrifying.
And the irony is that the more you know, the more you fear making a mistake, because you feel like you should know better by now.
That is such an important point. Beginners make mistakes and they don't care much because everyone knows they're beginners. But intermediate learners, people who know a lot, they have this strange pressure. They feel like they are not allowed to make mistakes anymore. So instead of risking a mistake, they stay silent.
That silence becomes a habit.
And habits are hard to break. There's also the accent problem.
Oh, that one is painful.
So many learners tell me, "I'm not afraid of the words, I'm afraid of my accent." They're afraid that the moment they open their mouth, people will laugh, or judge them, or not understand them.
Have you ever felt that?
Honestly, yes. I remember the first few times I spoke English in public and I could hear my own accent so loudly. It felt like wearing the wrong clothes to a party. Like everyone could see that I didn't belong.
But here's the thing. Most native speakers are not judging your accent.
Most of them are just trying to understand you. That's it. The judgment is mostly happening inside our own heads.
So the enemy is not the language. The enemy is the story we tell ourselves about the language.
Perfectly said. And that story usually sounds like this. My English is not good enough yet. When my English is perfect, I'll start speaking. I need to learn more before I can have a real conversation.
But perfect never comes.
Perfect never comes. And while you're waiting for perfect, another year goes by, and you're still standing at that party, staring at the snacks.
So what changed for you? After that night with David, what did you actually do differently?
The first thing I did was stop treating English like a subject.
What do you mean?
In school, English is a subject. You study it, you get graded on it, you pass or fail. But language, real language, is not a subject. It's a tool. And tools are not for studying, they're for using. So I made one decision. I would speak English every day. Not study it more, speak it, even if no one was listening.
Oh, you started talking to yourself?
I started narrating my life. Walking to the kitchen. I'm going to make tea. The kettle is on the stove. Getting dressed. Today I'll wear the blue shirt. It's a bit cold outside.
That sounds funny, but actually, that's genius?
It works because you're removing the audience. The reason speaking is scary is because of other people. When there's no audience, there's no fear. And you're still training your mouth, your brain, your rhythm, all at the same time.
The rhythm part is interesting. What do you mean by rhythm?
Every language has a rhythm, a music to it. English has a very specific rhythm. Which words get stressed, which words go fast, where you pause. When you only read English, you don't feel the rhythm. When you speak it, even alone, you start to find it. And once you feel the rhythm, the language starts to feel less foreign.
Okay, so daily speaking practice, even alone. What else?
The second thing, I gave myself permission to be imperfect in public.
That sounds easy to say and hard to do.
Incredibly hard to do. But here's how I started. I found low-risk situations. Not a business meeting, not a presentation. A coffee shop.
What did you do at a coffee shop?
I ordered in English. That was it. 3 sentences. "Can I have a black coffee, please? Medium size, for here." And I did it. The person at the counter smiled, took my order, and gave me coffee. That was it. The conversation was done. And I felt something. Small, but real. A tiny spark of, I can do this.
And small victories build bigger ones.
Exactly. After the coffee shop came the bookstore. After the bookstore came a short phone call. After the phone call came a longer conversation. You don't jump from silence to fluency. You walk, one small step at a time.
What about the fear of being misunderstood? Because I think for a lot of listeners, it's not just the fear of making mistakes, it's the fear that the other person won't understand them at all.
That fear is valid. But here's what helped me. I stopped trying to be understood perfectly. I started trying to be understood enough.
That's a subtle but powerful shift.
Communication is not about perfection. It's about connection. If the other person gets 70% of what you said and they can ask for the other 30, that's a successful conversation. That is real communication. And honestly, native speakers don't understand each other perfectly either. They ask, "Sorry, what was that?" all the time. Asking for clarification is not weakness, it's normal.
I love that, because I think a lot of us feel like asking someone to repeat themselves is embarrassing, like we should have understood the first time.
But asking someone to repeat themselves is actually a sign of engagement. It means you care about understanding. Next time someone says something you don't catch, don't nod and smile and pretend. Just say, "I'm sorry, could you say that again? I want to make sure I understand." That sentence alone will change how people see you.
It shows confidence, not weakness.
Exactly. And the third thing that changed everything for me, I stopped comparing my speaking to native speakers.
Oh, that's a big one.
It is. Because when you compare your spoken English to the English of someone who has spoken it since birth, you will always lose. It's not a fair comparison. It's like comparing a person who has been swimming for 20 years to someone who learned 6 months ago. Compare yourself to where you were 6 months ago. That's the only comparison that means anything.
So, to summarize what I'm hearing, speak every day, even alone. Start with small, low-risk conversations. Aim to be understood, not perfect. And measure your progress against your past self, not against someone else.
That's it. That's the whole system. No app, no expensive course. Just consistent, brave, imperfect speaking.
Okay, I want to give our listeners something concrete to do today. Not tomorrow, today.
Yes, here's the challenge. This week, just this week, I want you to have one short English conversation with a real person. Not on an app, with a real human being. It can be a shop assistant, a delivery person, a colleague, a neighbor. The conversation can be 30 seconds long. It just has to be real.
And if you don't have access to any English speakers around you,
Then find a mirror, stand in front of it, and introduce yourself in English. Say your name, where you're from, what you do, and one thing you enjoy. Look yourself in the eyes while you do it.
that sounds uncomfortable.
It is. But uncomfortable is where growth lives.
And if our listeners want to share, they can leave a comment below telling us how it went. We read every single comment. We really do.
Tell us, what was your moment? Your staring at the snacks moment? We all have one, and there is zero shame in it.
All right, let's bring it all together.
So today we talked about something very real. The embarrassment and fear that comes with speaking English, even after years of studying it. We talked about why this happens. It's not because your English is bad. It's because speaking in public activates a different kind of fear. A fear of judgment, a fear of looking stupid, a fear of not belonging.
And we talked about what actually helps.
Speak every single day, even alone, even to yourself. Start with small, low-pressure conversations to build real confidence. Aim to be understood enough, not perfect. Stop comparing your progress to native speakers and measure your growth against who you were, not who someone else is.
And remember, every fluent speaker you admire was once embarrassed too. Every single one.
Fluency is not a destination. It's a practice. And practice means showing up, imperfectly, again and again.
Now let's move into our vocabulary section. 10 words from today's episode, all intermediate level, all useful for real conversation.
Let's go through them one by one. Word 1. Embarrassment. Meaning, the uncomfortable feeling you get when you make a mistake or feel judged in front of others. Example: his embarrassment was clear when he couldn't answer the question. Speaking question: tell me about a moment of embarrassment that you learned from. Word 2. Fluency. Meaning, the ability to speak a language naturally, smoothly, and without stopping too much. Example: she reached fluency in French after 2 years of living in Paris. Speaking question: what does English fluency mean to you personally? Word 3. Clarification. Meaning, extra information or explanation that helps you understand something better. Example: could you give me some clarification on what you meant by that? Speaking question: when was the last time you asked someone for clarification? How did it feel? Word 4. Imperfect. Meaning, not perfect, having some mistakes or flaws. Example: his English was imperfect, but everyone understood him completely. Speaking question: do you think imperfect communication can still be effective? Why? Word 5. Intermediate. Meaning, a level between beginner and advanced, knowing some things but not everything. Example: she's at an intermediate level. She understands well, but struggles with fast speakers. Speaking question: how would you describe your English level to someone right now? Word 6. Judgment. Meaning, an opinion or evaluation of someone, often critical or negative. Example: he was afraid of judgment, so he stayed quiet during the meeting. Speaking question: have you ever avoided something because you were afraid of judgment? Word 7. Consistent. Meaning, doing something regularly without stopping, keeping the same standard over time. Example: consistent daily practice is more powerful than studying once a week for 5 hours. Speaking question: what is one habit you have been consistent about in your life? Word 8. Momentum. Meaning, the energy and speed that builds up when you keep doing something regularly. Example: once she started speaking every day, she built momentum and couldn't stop. Speaking question: how do you keep momentum when learning something new feels difficult? Word 9. Hesitation. Meaning, a pause or delay before saying or doing something, often because of uncertainty or fear. Example: there was a long hesitation before he finally answered the question. Speaking question: when do you feel the most hesitation when speaking English? Word 10. Vulnerable. Meaning, open to being hurt, judged, or criticized, exposing your true feelings or weaknesses. Example: speaking a foreign language makes you feel vulnerable because you can't hide behind your usual words. Speaking question: is it difficult for you to feel vulnerable when learning something new? Why?
Those are 10 really powerful words. And notice, all 10 of them appeared naturally in today's conversation. That's how vocabulary actually enters your brain, through context, through stories, through emotion.
Not through a list on a flashcard. Through meaning. Before we wrap up, I want to go back to David, the Canadian man at the party. The one I pretended not to hear.
Did you ever speak to him?
Actually, yes. About 40 minutes later, at the end of the evening, he was getting his jacket, and I walked up to him, and I said, very slowly, very carefully, "I'm sorry. Earlier, I think I was rude. My English, I get nervous."
What did he say?
He laughed, not at me, with me. He said, "Don't worry about it. I figured. Happens to me in Spanish all the time."
He was a language learner too.
Everyone is a language learner somewhere, and most people are far more understanding than we imagine.
So the fear was bigger than the reality.
The fear is almost always bigger than the reality. That's the thing about fear. It promises a catastrophe. And usually, what actually happens is just a conversation.
So to everyone listening right now, maybe you've had your snacks at the party moment. Maybe it was at school or at work or on a trip somewhere. Maybe it happens every time someone speaks to you in English and your brain goes blank.
You are not broken. You are not bad at English. You are just at a stage that every fluent speaker has been through. And the only way through it is the same for everyone. You speak. Badly at first, then less badly, then okay, then good. Then, one day, without even noticing, you stop thinking about it, and you're just talking.
That day will come, not because you found the perfect method, but because you kept going.
Keep going.
If this episode connected with you, please subscribe to the channel. We make content exactly like this. Real stories, real conversations, real English. Not textbook English, living English.
And leave us a comment telling us your snacks at the party story. We genuinely want to hear it.
Thank you for spending this time with us.
And remember, you don't need perfect English to have a real conversation. You just need the courage to start one. We'll see you in the next episode.
Take care.